This is the new point and shoot film camera from Reto, the Reto Pano. I'm going to tell you everything you need to know about this camera, including plenty of tips and tricks. I'm going to tell you which film to use, how to load the film, how to rewind the film, how to use the Pano feature, how to use the flash, and of course I'm going to show you lots of sample photos that I took here in sunny Brisbane. Everything is organized in chapters, so if you do want to skip ahead to a particular section, check out the video description for the chapter timestamps. The camera is very attractively priced for a brand new film camera. It's just $35 US, and you can find an Amazon affiliate link in my description if you want to help me out and buy through that. The Pano is a brand new camera from Reto, and the last few years they brought us quite a few new film cameras. They brought us the Reto 3D, the Ektar H35, the H35N, and my personal favorite, the Reto Ultra Wide and Slim, which of course is the latest incarnation of the Vivitar Ultra Wide and Slim from the late 80s, early 90s. Both of these cameras have ultra wide 22mm lenses. This camera is pretty much just an outdoors camera that you can use on bright sunny days. However, this one, the Reto Pano, it has a built-in flash, so that's one of two differences it has over the Ultra Wide and Slim. And the other difference, of course, is that it has a Panorama feature, which gives it its name, the Pano. So the Reto Pano comes in 5 cool colors. It comes in these kind of semi-see-through black and white versions, as well as metallic pink, silver, and this lovely mint version I've got, which is really, really nice. The Reto Pano is super lightweight. When you load it with a film and a battery, it weighs just 127 grams, which is around 4.5 ounces. So here are my top tips and tricks for the Reto Pano. Tip number 1, use fast film. Now the Pano has a fixed shutter speed of 1/100th of a second and a fixed aperture of f9.5. So even outside on a bright sunny day, you want to use fast film. Now generally I would recommend 400 speed film. Films like Kodak Ultramax, Lomography 400 and Ilford HP5, these are all fantastic choices, and certainly in any conditions outside you're going to get some good photos with 400 speed film. Now, if you want to be really creative, load a roll of Lomochrome Purple into your camera. This is a fantastic film, one of my favorite films of all time. Look at these images here. I took on an ultra wide and slim with purple. They look fantastic. And that is a fantastic choice as well if you want to be really creative and get some cool color shifts going on. Now, if you live somewhere like I do in sunny Brisbane and you've got really bright conditions with lots of nice sunshine, you can actually get away with using 200 speed film in the Reto Pano. Kodak Gold and Color Plus 200 are both good choices. I took all of the photos in this video with Kodak Gold and they were fantastic, beautifully exposed, except for this one picture here I took. There were some shadows in between buildings and there was a bird on a bench eating some food. I thought it looked cool. So I took a photo, but as you can see here, because it's in the shadows and I'm only using 200 speed film, it came out dark and underexposed. I should have turned my flash on for that shot, but I forgot. Now, if you're going to shoot the whole roll on the Reto Pano with the flash on, I'd recommend 200 speed film like Gold or Color Plus, both great choices. Tip number 2, how to load film correctly. Now in the Reto Pano video on the YouTube channel, they do show you how to load the film, but I'm going to do a little bit more in depth. So here we go, let's have a look. Now on the side of the camera, there is a latch for the door. And so you just push that down and you open up the back of the camera. There we go. Obviously you only want to do that if you've got no film in here. And on the right hand side here, there's actually just a little bit of plastic there. And we're going to load the bottom of the film onto that and the top of the film in here. So here is our roll of film, lovely, and that is the top there. And there's the bottom there. So we're going to put the bottom onto that bit of plastic in the bottom there and sort of just push that in a little bit. There we go. It's nice and snug there. And this is the film leader here. And the film leader needs to go into a gap here in the take-up spool. Now, if you can't actually see that, all you need to do is just keep winding this on until it appears, and there it is there. So we just sort of put that in like that, feed that in, and make sure the film is nice and flat. And then we just sort of wind it on like this. And we should see the film coming out like this. We should see the teeth through the sprockets here. The sprockets on the top and the bottom of 35mm film, and you should see the teeth, the black teeth in the camera there. You just keep winding it like this. Yep, we've done a good job. So we can then close up the back of the camera like this. Keep winding the film on until it stops. And then this first photo, because we've had the back of the camera open, look, it might not come out, so I don't usually take anything too important with it. There we go. Now, when you do wind the camera on, what you want to see when you wind it on, you want to see this film rewind crank move. So as I'm winding this onto the second frame of the roll, look at that, you can see the film rewind crank is moving. That means I have loaded the film correctly. I'll take another photo and then I'm going to rewind it on again, and you can see there it's moving around. Hooray, we have loaded the film correctly. Tip number 3, the framing is not precise with the Reto Pano. So when you're looking through the back of the viewfinder, you're sort of composing your scene, and yeah, what you get when you press the shutter button is not what you get when you look through the viewfinder. So here's an example of what I mean. I was framing up this shot of the famous Brisbane sign at South Bank in Brisbane, facing the city there. And I was actually worried that I wasn't going to get the whole sign in. I couldn't move back any further. There was like a garden bed and a tree and stuff. And I was like, oh, I'm not sure I'm going to get all of the B or all of the E on the end. It's going to be a bit of a squeeze. Will I get it all in? And then when I got the picture back, look how much room I have on either side of the sign. There was quite a lot. So what you see through the viewfinder is not what you get. You get a little bit extra, so make sure you take that into account when you're taking your photos. Tip number 4, watch your fingers. Yes, the Pano has an ultra wide 22mm field of view, which means that if you put your fingers on the front of the camera like this, you're bound to get some of your photos back with a finger or two in. And to be honest, look, don't feel bad if this happens to you. It's kind of like a rite of passage if you're using the ultra wide and slim, or if you're using the Pano, to get a finger or two in some of your shots. So if it happens to you, don't feel too bad. But if you don't want those fingers in your photos, well, there's a couple of things you can do. First of all, you could try and crop the image like I have here with this lighthouse photo, or you can just be super careful when you take photos and kind of hold it like this without your fingers on the front of the camera and sort of press the shutter like that. Tip number 5, don't get too close to your subject. The camera has fixed focus, which means that everything from about 1.2 meters, which is about 4 feet, all the way to infinity is going to be in focus. So don't try and take macro or close-up photos with this camera. It just won't work. Tip number 6, embrace the lens imperfections. Yes, the Pano has a very similar lens to the ultra wide and slim. So that means there's quite a few cool characteristics to the photos. So the first one is vignetting. Yes, the camera has a bit of a vignette around the corners. That's where the corners get a bit dark here, as you can see in these photos here. Another one is sun flare. So just like the ultra wide and slim, if you're pointing this camera towards the sun or towards the sun's rays, you can get these really cool sun flares. So try and get a few of those in your photo. They do look really cool. Just be careful, don't stare at the sun. And the last thing to look out for is the lens sharpness. So in the middle is where you're going to get the sharpest bit of your image. Towards the edges, it kind of gets a bit fuzzy and out of focus, which I kind of like. Tip number 7, how and when to use the flash. So to use the flash, you need a single AAA battery, which goes in the camera like this. Now the battery is only used for the flash. All the other features of the camera, you don't need a battery for. So if you're not planning to do any flash photography, you don't need a battery. You can walk around all day without one and it's fine. But if you do want to take a flash photo, pop that battery in and off you go. So the way that you activate the flash is by fully opening the lens cover to the flash position. And then you wait until the red LED on the back of the camera lights up, and then you can take a flash photo. Then if you want to take another photo with flash, you just wind the camera on and you've got to wait till that LED is red again. Now, if you're taking a mixture of flash and non-flash photos, you control when the flash is fired by that little switch there on the lens cover. So if you do want the flash to fire, you put it to the flash position. If you don't want it to fire, you put it to the middle position and it won't go off. Now, if you are taking photos at a party, indoors, at night, in a nightclub, at a cafe or restaurant, you pretty much want that flash on every time you take a shot. Tip number 8, go Pano. Use the Panorama feature on the camera. Finally, we get to the tip about the Panorama feature that gives the Reto Pano its name. Now, the camera is not a true panorama camera like the X-Pan or even the Sprocket Rocket. They fully expose more than one frame of 35mm film. The Reto Pano is like dozens of 90s point and shoots that had panorama mode. It uses black blinds to mask off the top and bottom of a single frame of 35mm film. Use this black slider here on top of the camera to switch between the two modes. In the right position, it is in standard mode. Slide it to the left and you are now in Pano mode. So here you can see two photos taken with the Reto Pano. One in normal mode that uses the entirety of the 35mm frame. And the one here in Pano mode, you can actually see the black bars at the top and bottom of the image there. And these are actually the black blinds inside the camera. So you're kind of wasting a fair bit of film just for the privilege of shooting in Pano mode. The thing though I really like about the pano mode on this camera is that the switch here on top, when you switch that across to engage the pano mode, it actually puts blinds on the viewfinder as well. So you can actually compose in that pano mode, which is super cool. Now my one criticism of the Reto Pano is the packaging. It's a little bit deceptive. Now it looks like the standard ratio there, you're just going to get that little bit of church. But if you put it in the panoramic view, you're going to get all those mountains as well behind it. Well, it's not actually quite like that at all. You would actually get the sliver of the church in the middle. You wouldn't get those mountains to the side. Tip number 9, how to rewind your film. So how do you know when to rewind the film? Well, it's pretty easy. There's a film counter there right next to the shutter button, and it's got some numbers there in red. And just say you load a roll of 36 exposure film into the camera. When it gets to about 34, 35, you'll take a photo and then you won't be able to wind the film on anymore. That means it's time to rewind your film. So you go to the bottom of the camera and there's a little button here for rewind. You press that in. And then you go here to the rewind crank and you lift that up. There's actually an arrow there showing you which way to rewind the film. So you're rewinding the film back into the canister now. And you should be able to hear like a noise like that. And there's a bit of resistance there. It's not hard to rewind, but there's a bit of tension there. And eventually you're just going to get to a stage where there is no more tension anymore and you can freewheel the rewind crank around the back of the camera there. That means all of the film is safely back into the canister and you can open up the back of the camera and take your roll of film out. Tip number 10, how to crop pano images. So I've brought my images from the roll of film from the Reto Pano into Lightroom. You can see them along the bottom here, and most of them I've cropped, but this one here we're going to crop right now. So we're going to go to the Develop module, and we're going to go to the Crop tool just over here, and you want to make sure that the aspect ratio here is unlocked, because if it's locked, what you're going to get when you try and crop it, it's going to do this, and you're going to lose loads of the image. So what we want to do is we're going to go over here and unlock that. And then when we crop it from the top here, very nice. It does exactly what we want. And we're just going to pull that down until you can't see any more black there on the image. Bring that up, nice. That looks pretty good like that. And then we're just going to bring it in slightly there and we're going to hit enter. And there we go. Our Pano image is cropped and ready to share. The Reto Pano is a really cool film camera. It is super easy to use, super fun, and it's got a really good price point at just $35 US. So to finish the video off, we're just going to look through a few more sample images captured on the Reto Pano on a beautiful, bright, sunny winter's day. So first of all, here is the contact sheet that my lab gives me whenever I send a roll of film in. And you can actually see there, if you zoom in on the contact sheet, you can sort of see which photos are Pano. You can see those black blinds to the top and the bottom of the images. And of course, other images have the full frame there, unhindered by those black bars. All of the photos here look fantastic. I can tell you right now, there's only one image on the entire roll that was underexposed, that one I showed you earlier that I took in the shadows. So I started taking these photos at South Bank on the Brisbane River, and you've got this lovely vista here with all the new buildings there on the north side of the river, and you've got the new Neville Bonner Bridge there. I really like that. You can actually see that vignetting there in the corners, especially the top right there. You can see a bit of darkened corner there. Here is the Brisbane sign again, of course, I showed you earlier. There's a couple images here of the Brisbane wheel that I shot in Pano mode. And yeah, one of them there does look a little bit dark. So maybe 400 speed would have worked better for that one. But of course, the other one here is beautiful with that nice tree and the wheel there. Another one here of the Neville Bonner Bridge, and you can see a bit of sun flare there. That looks good. And some other ones here of an ibis and also the beautiful flowers that they have out South Bank. Here is a sign that says Eat South Bank, and this is probably the best version of a sun flare photo I have on the roll. Really cool sun flare there. And another nice photo here of those beautiful pink flowers, really nice rich colors here. A couple of photos of the Maritime Museum. You've got the tugboat Carpentaria there, which looks really nice. That nice red boat looks fantastic. And here is that lighthouse shot, of course, where I had my finger in the way of the photo. A couple of more panoramas taken from one of the bridges there, which looks good, including a couple there of the ferries as well. I really like this photo here of these like palm leaves, I think they are, just sort of facing up into the sky, and you've got the sun behind them. They look really, really nice. I've got a vertical panorama here, which is kind of rare, but I thought that suited this subject matter quite well. These palm trees and the nice skyscraper and that sort of expanse of grass there in the Botanic Gardens. A couple of more shots here from the bridges, which look really nice. Nice sort of view looking upwards here of one of Brisbane's historic buildings. A couple of more shots here of the Central Business District, looking up at buildings, and also, a nice shot here from the river. You've got a nice shot here of the Kurilpa Bridge. And you can just see, you know, the middle there is nicely exposed, but just around the corner there, you've got that vignetting as well, just sort of darker edges around the corner. And the final photo is of my own personal crash test dummy, Marshall Dalmatian. He was my subject when I used the flash on the Reto Pano. He looks fantastic, lying on his bed. He looks very chill, doesn't he? So there you go. What did you think of the photos I took with the Reto Pano? Do you have the Reto Pano? Are you thinking about getting it? Do you have any questions? Let me know everything in the comments below, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.